Hey there and happy Sunday to you, West Michigan. Meteorologist Will Haney here, hanging with you. It is March 1st. I almost said February. We're out of February. March 1st and just about 9:15 p.m. on Sunday. Hopefully everyone enjoying today's beautiful weather. Of course, it was a little on the cold side, of course, but we'll take it. At least there was some sunshine and pretty quiet weather, all things considered. All right, we're going to get this party started on a Sunday night, to change the lyric, and we are looking at a moon that is pretty much full right now. So if you haven't checked it out, if you haven't been outside since the sun went down, be sure to go check out the mostly full moon. It is very bright out there, enough to see your shadow. And if you're curious, the full moon will peak early Tuesday morning, I believe just before like 7 a.m., but it'll appear full tomorrow night. And then we'll start to cloud over by early Tuesday morning. So tomorrow at moonrise might be your best opportunity to see the full moon. And if you're curious as well, March's full moon is called the worm moon because this is the time of year the ground starts to soften up a little bit, at least especially to our south. And so those worms become a little bit more active. I don't make the names. They're kind of folklore, but that is where it gets its name. I'm quickly pulling up a quick graphic, and then we are going to get things going. But I hope, like I said, everyone enjoyed their weekend. It's not done yet, but we are getting there. So, yeah, we're going to touch on the last couple of months just briefly. Then I'm also going to cover meteorological spring because we are technically kicking off a new season today. Now, technically speaking, most of us consider the start of spring March 20th this year, which is the spring equinox. But meteorologists, we break seasons down in 3-month intervals, mainly for record-keeping purposes. So technically, meteorological winter just concluded December, January, February. And it's kind of funny. November, December, and January. I know November isn't included here. But those were 3 really, really snowy months. Then this past month was very lackluster as far as snowfall in February. We only saw 3.8 inches. We average about 14. So we were about 10 inches behind average. That being said, it was technically speaking the coldest winter, these 3 past months, the coldest winter we've seen since the 2014 to 2015 season. And so far, our snowfall, we are seeing the snowiest season since the year before that, 2013 to 14, which was a very snowy winter as well. Just kind of interesting. You know, I like looking at this stuff, but I'm also a weather nerd. So hopefully I can share some of that for you. But yeah, just kind of to validate what you're probably feeling, which is it has been a colder winter overall, but this past month has really been pretty mild, above average temperatures, and also well below average snowfall. That's why we don't have any snow cover on the ground right now. Meteorological spring just kicked off, though, the next 3 months. This is where, of course, we see the daylight really lengthen very rapidly, and those clocks are going to spring forward next weekend. So look forward to that, especially if you have a toddler at home or toddlers. And our average high temperature really starts to climb very rapidly the next few weeks. In fact, tomorrow, our average high, now that's a 30-year average. It's not a forecast. Hopefully you understand the difference. I'm talking like averages, long-term averages. But our average highs tomorrow are about 40 degrees. And as you can see, those quickly climb. By the end of this month, they're in the low 50s. So, yeah, it's like every other day almost we're adding to that average high, which is a good feeling. And we're also gaining a ton of daylight. This month, I believe, more than any other month, we gain daylight. I think. It's either this month or next month. But we gain about an hour 20 in Kalamazoo of daylight. And you can see even farther north, they gain even more than that. So that accounts for those earlier sunrises, later sunsets. And, those day lengths really increase pretty quickly. So that's just a quick little snippet of what we've been experiencing this winter so far and hopefully what's to come. I don't foresee any snow in the future. However, we do average about 6 inches of snow in the month of March and about 1 inch in the month of April. And it's certainly possible that we see winter storms, well into March and sometimes even April. However, the likelihood of some of those higher end winter storms goes down quite a bit. So a moment of optimism if you're not a fan of winter. Karen, just wanted to shout out Karen Grabowski out at Indian Lake in Vicksburg for sharing this icy sunset tonight. There's still some ice on our lakes, but of course that ice very unstable, and you wouldn't want to be out on it really anywhere, especially as well the lakeshore. Did see some videos shared on social media a little bit earlier of some folks kind of on the brink of disaster, just treading on the ice shelf today. And that ice shelf is way less stable than it was even just a few weeks ago. Another just kind of cool thing, this was today's sunshine provided a really nice view from space. We don't always get it if we don't have like really clear skies, but what we're looking at here is some high resolution satellite imagery. And what's kind of cool is South Haven is somewhere right in here. And you can actually see that kind of from probably Grand Haven down towards about South Haven, you can see a little bit of the ice that's built up and kind of pushed back towards the shoreline. Another few kind of interesting things you can pick out. The brighter whites up here, that is cloud cover, mainly in the mid to high levels of the atmosphere. Up towards Lansing, and you can kind of see that little shading there of like very slight shading of white. That's the light snow we saw in the last 24 hours. What was cool, though, was as the sun, rose and then was right overhead, well, not right overhead this time of year, but you know what I mean. When it reached its max in the afternoon, that snow you could literally watch because it was so little. And, we started the day with like a little snow cover in some areas. It quickly just like shrunk on satellite because it was melting. So just something kind of cool you could pick out today from the view from space. All right. I could nerd out about a lot of things, but I know you guys want to know what the forecast is. So let's talk about it. High temperatures the next several days are going to be steadily warmer. So we're definitely going to be feeling like spring again towards the end of this week, 50s and even some low 60s in there. The only catch is that these are not going to be sunny, beautiful, tulip kind of days. They're going to be some rainy kind of days. It's almost like an early taste of those April showers, but in the first week of March. So we are talking all rain in the week ahead. I think some showers as early as Tuesday, mainly near and south of I-94. The two rounds we'll touch on here in just a second, Wednesday night into Thursday and then Friday night into Saturday, are the two time frames that have my attention for some of the heaviest rain. What's up, Ethan, in Traverse City? I don't know if you live up there, Ethan, or if you're just visiting, but I'm jealous. I love Traverse City. Heather, thanks for watching. Dan, hello as always, sir. Rhonda says, hey, Spring. Mikey, hello as always. And I hope you're having a great night as well. Andy, let's start the month on a good note. Love the energy. Doug, good evening as well, Indicator. Doug Indicator. Doug Indicator. I like that. Has a ring to it, Doug. Patty, like steps. Up, up, up. This is true, Patty. Or raising the bar, the good old days of AT&T. That is not an intentional AT&T plug. However, we are also raising the bar as far as the rain chances, as you see there. All right, let's touch on this. So if you were watching last night, we touched on a limited potential Tuesday morning of freezing rain. Models have backed off quite a bit of that from that, and the reason being is this warm air to our south, it's essentially a warm front, doesn't look to lift as far north as quickly Tuesday morning. So watch this rain down to our south. See how it just slowly inches a little farther north during the day on Tuesday? We're going to be right on the northern edge of some moisture. I think if anything, we'll just see just some scattered showers. The best chance of seeing the rain on Tuesday specifically is going to be near and south of I-94. And I don't think Tuesday will amount to a whole lot of rain at all. Tuesday will just be kind of a gray day with maybe a few showers, like I said, near and south of I-94. Ethan, living up here, weekend meteorologist. Oh, Ethan, I'm sorry, man. You do some great stuff, dude. We run some of your stories. I was just not, my brain was not in the right place. So I appreciate you hopping on here, man. That's awesome. Thanks for tuning in. And yeah, reach out, dude. We should chat more. All right. Yeah, Ethan, we sometimes air. Ethan's a meteorologist at our sister station in Traverse City. I know Heather Bricka really well as well, Ethan, as she went to Valpo, as I'm sure you know. So we've talked a couple times, but he does some good stuff. We run some of your work every once in a while, Ethan, especially like more DNR up north related stuff. So, yeah, the rain is, I think, going to hold off for the most part on Tuesday, the steadier rain. But the two rounds that we're watching, rain is going to move in, I think, mainly Wednesday, late in the day into Thursday morning. That could be a decent quarter, half an inch or so, perhaps. And then perhaps the more substantial round of rain later in the week will be Friday afternoon, evening into Saturday morning. That's a little bit more put together of a system, and we're going to be warmer, which brings more opportunity for heavy rain because there's going to be a little bit more moisture for that system to work with. And also it brings a few thunderstorms to the table. I don't expect anything severe, but at the very least, a few rumbles of thunder to set the mood for springtime. So that is kind of what we're looking at. Both of those rounds combined, by the way, I think we could easily see well north of an inch of rain in the next 7 days. This is the Weather Prediction Center's, which is a branch of the National Weather Service. It's kind of like a national forecasting office. They put out a 5 and 7 day rainfall potential product. And I like this as a good just estimate of how much rain is going to go in the ground essentially the next 7 days. And what you can see here is that shading of like light bluish teal. Let me use my little pointer here. So we're going from about here on the map. If you're following my drift, follow this color right on our chart up here on the key. That is 1.25. So as you work your way farther south, we're going this way on the scale up to about here. So Weather Prediction Center is suggesting somewhere between about 1.25 to 2 inches, which I definitely agree with. I think we'll have somewhere in the range of like 1 inch to 2 inches area wide. With the other takeaway here is areas farther south, a little bit more favored to see perhaps a little bit more rain versus the rest of us. And that's given the trajectory of those two systems I was just kind of referencing, that Wednesday night into Thursday time frame, and then especially that weekend system as well. Just looks like we'll have a little bit more rain a little farther south. Some of the impact from this, we're certainly by the end of the weekend into next weekend going to see the creeks and streams rise. We could have some very minor flooding, nothing major expected. That's not enough rain to lead to like major flooding or anything like that. However, if you live near a creek or just a flood prone area, you might see some very minor issues, maybe some creeks coming out of their banks by next weekend, especially Saturday. And some of our smaller area rivers might get to like action stage or even minor flood stage, but I think that's pretty unlikely right now. Some of the trouble spots river-wise, I feel like are a little farther north versus south, but just something we'll continue to watch. Like I said, not going to be anything major, but we'll just kind of keep that in mind. If you, like I said, live near a creek or even a smaller stream, you might see some of that river or creek rise towards the end of the week and next weekend. But nothing too major. It's actually some beneficial rain. We've essentially mitigated our drought, in case you were wondering, because if you recall, late in the summer into the early fall, we did actually develop some drought conditions across much of the area. We've essentially erased much of that, given the snow that we've picked up. I can even show that. Right now, it's 23 degrees, in case you were wondering. Hold on 1 second. Stand by. All right. Yeah, Ethan, I've never met Joe Charlevoix. I always think that is the craziest thing, that there's a chief meteorologist. I bit my tongue, my lip. Ow. There's a chief meteorologist at our sister station in Traverse City named Joe Charlevoix. And I'm like, no way. When I first moved here, I was like, no way there's a guy named Joe Charlevoix that is the chief meteorologist in northern Michigan. It's true. Anyways, it's like the dream name. That'd be like if my name was Will Kalamazoo or something like that. That'd be crazy. Here is the drought, though. I'm actually curious because I haven't looked at this in like a few days. But yeah, you can see just some abnormally dry conditions across Branch County, a very narrow sliver of St. Joe County, which would be down towards like Leonidas area, Menden, Colon, but definitely not necessarily drought. That's kind of like there's still some room to work with as far as soil moisture. So this rain, we can take it still. We're not totally saturated. However, sometimes in these early seasons events, if we get too much rain too quickly, the ground, right, is still pretty frozen in the layers beneath the topsoil. So sometimes you can get a little bit more efficient runoff. So that's why we'll just keep an eye on it into next weekend, but I don't expect anything too major. Pat Hagen, our photographer / editor, just walked by. That's who I was waving at, not a ghost. All right. Thanks, Mikey, for the share. Appreciate it, man. Smell the rain in the air, says Jeremy. It's a good smell. Lily, back in the game. Good evening, everyone. Even though the temps were in the 20-30 range today, it didn't feel cold since the sun was out. I agree, Lily. I always feel like the sun makes a world of difference. Sometimes, though, it is a bit of a tease because you look out and you're like, oh, it looks so lovely. And then you walk outside and you're like, oh, I gotta still have the coat on. And it was one of those days today. So, but yeah, it was lovely. And tomorrow, Lily, will be just as sunny, if not sunnier, and a little bit warmer, as you see there. So 41 for tomorrow. We hit a high of 31 today. So we're moving in the right direction. Some rain works its way in. Very light, I think, initially Tuesday. Again, if we're talking key time frames to watch, I think it is Wednesday into Thursday, and then Friday into Saturday. And with those 60s, I wouldn't be shocked if we had at least a few rumbles of thunder. I don't see anything severe. However, me and my weather nerd friends, Blake Naftel mostly, who is a local weather nerd, who I say that endearingly because I am one, but he is a bit of a local legend in the weather world, as I call him, but he's a local storm chaser and he knows his stuff. And we were just texting a little bit earlier. There's definitely some interesting signals for next week, a little bit, for possibly a little bit more of a stormy setup, like actual storms. So that's something we'll watch. And it's been fairly, we were talking about, it's been somewhat consistent in some of the weather model data around maybe like March 10th through the 13th, not every day, but just somewhere in that range where the pattern looks conducive for not only some pretty serious warmth, but also potentially some thunderstorms in the mix too. So, that's super early. I don't want you panicking or anything like that, but it has some early season hintings of possibly our first maybe severe weather chance. So we'll keep an eye on that for you. But right now, there's nothing really major to worry about. In fact, the next couple days, really nothing major. Tomorrow is going to be lovely. But of course, then we'll have kind of some dreary, rainier days to round out the work week. But that's going to do it for me tonight. I appreciate all of you that tuned in. Thanks for hanging out, Ethan, if you're still watching, and everybody else at home. And if you don't do so, I would love it if you are watching on Facebook. We really appreciate that, of course. But if you also have YouTube, we're trying to grow that YouTube audience and steadily doing so. And we do these live streams on YouTube as well. So sometimes you might be like on YouTube on your TV or something, and you'll get a notification or see that we're live on here too. It's just another way to stay updated. So we would really appreciate that. And I'll be on tonight at 10 on the ARC and then 11 on News Channel 3. You can always stream us as well at WWMT.com or with our mobile app. I think that's all the plugs. I am contractually obligated. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not contractually obligated to do that. But that is how you can get us, and we appreciate you guys always. And you can find the latest forecast at WWMT.com/weather. Good night, Teresa. Don't let the bed bugs bite. If that's the kind of good night you mean. Probably not. All right. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you next time. I'm off the next couple days, but I will be back later in the week for our rainy and maybe slightly stormy weather. All right. Bye.